Hey, it's Dominic Ajakovic, and you're watching Light the Fuse Wrestling Podcast.
Hello everybody, my name is MTG. I want to welcome you to Light the Fuse Wrestling Podcast, the only wrestling podcast where we light the fuse, bring the boom. Today we're going to be reviewing the Monday Night Raw for July 13th of 2020. Now this was the go-home show for the horror show known as Extreme Rules. MVP started the show in the ring with the United States title that he unveiled a week ago that he supposedly stole from Apollo Crews. He introduces his guest on the VIP lounge, someone who widely better than everyone. He's got a huge heart that's not good for medical condition to have you know, because he brought out Drew McIntyre off the street and helped him out. All of this just to bring out Dolph Ziggler, a video package to remind everyone of what happened between Ziggler and McIntyre. Nothing really helps right there, because it just shows an endless recap. You know, Ziggler likes to set up and approve of the new U.S. belt. Him and MVP joke around. You know, he even joked about how when he wins, bringing back the spinner belt when he beats McIntyre this Sunday. MVP then praises Ziggler for not telling what stipulation it is for the match. He says that, and I quote, "That's just one of the most tactical strategies I've ever seen. You know, I would have done the exact same thing, you know." And then MVP, of course, thanks Ziggler on behalf of McIntyre. McIntyre's music hits to break up the Mutual Admiration Society. He then tosses over the velvet rope, kicks it down, and makes his way to the ring, straight beeline. He apologizes for interrupting the ass-kicking session, but promises not to claim more MVP at this time. McIntyre has been thinking about his career and Ziggler's and feels Ziggler just uses people. They interrupt each other, but McIntyre promises to hurt and maim Ziggler, make him beg for mercy, and make him regret ever bringing him to Monday Night Raw. He doesn't think he can wait until Sunday. Ziggler tries to hide behind MVP, but McIntyre's cold, calculating sight awaits him, then punks out MVP. A little long for the segment and a pretty generic pay-per-view hype segment, you know. In the back, Angel Garza, Andrade, and Zelina Vega are being interviewed. Vega claims that her clients get along and put them over teaming with Randy Orton and sending the Street Profits running. Vega then runs down Charlie a little bit, but Andrade and Garza slow that roll, then get a little hint of dismemberment between the two, but then the Viking Raiders would show up. The Raiders claim that they have been the most dominant team for over a year on Monday Night Raw, but Garza and Andrade have felt disrespected by their competition. Hanson then takes the rose from Garza and gives it to Charlie Caruso, stealing his attempted romantic thunder as we go to commercial, because there was no better way to start up a wrestling show than two different promo segments taking up 15 minutes. Bring back with a tag team match. The first match of the evening when they would come back from commercial was an elimination tag team match. It was the Viking Raiders, Eric and Ivar, versus Angel Garza and Andrade with Zelina Vega. Another recap before the match starts showing the end of the six-man tag featuring these two from the week prior. Pearl Harbor job from Angel Garza and Andrade. Andrade and Ivar are in the ring. The tension is thick between Garza and Andrade on the first tag of the match. Then the pants come off. Well, that's how it always goes with Angel Garza. But that lets Eric tag in Ivar, who runs wild for a bit, and Ivar gets back in. Garza eats a tandem offense, including the Hammer of Thor, but Andrade breaks up the pin to avoid elimination. Eric's back in, but Garza avoids some offense and hits a super kick. Andrade comes in, running a knee in the corner. Hammerlock DDT, and Eric is eliminated. On that note, we head to break, wondering if Ivar will be able to overcome the odds. Back with Andrade working over Ivar. During the break, both Garza and Andrade lost their t-shirts, and Ivar would fight back, looks for a suicide dive, but he's cut off by Garza. They argue about being on the same page, which lets Ivar do the suicide dive again to pumped in audio as he wipes out both men. Ivar then takes out Andrade, but Garza takes him out with a dropkick. Ivar then lands a haymaker right out of the corner, wind up hitting a cartwheel lariat as well. Andrade with the blind tag, but Ivar then takes him out with an accidental spinning heel kick to eliminate Andrade. Garza and Ivar are now one-on-one now. With a flying dropkick from Garza, he tries to set up a wing clipper, but Ivar is too big. Well, kind of seen that coming, you know. A super kick from Garza, Ivar hits a seated senton, and then the spin kick again, but Andrade puts Garza's foot on the ropes to save the match. Garza then counters the seated senton with a powerbomb to end the match. The official result was Andrade and Garza defeated the Viking Raiders via pinfall. Garza last eliminated Ivar. I'm going to rate this because I am starting with the ratings now. I will rate each individual match. And this particular match has gotten a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Not bad, but still very paint by numbers. The hints of the team still not getting along, but finding ways to work together are nice. Ruby Riott in the back and the Iconics cut off and mock her for being all alone. They jaw back and forth before Bianca Belair shows up with an uninspected return, and she offers to be, Riott's new partner. Belair is apparently the EST of WWE. Why she insists on representing a time zone that forcibly is beyond me, but sure. That sets up a tag team match, We go to commercial break. We come back. It's match number 2, a tag team match, because we're doing tag matches today on Raw. It is the Iconics, Peyton Royce and Billie Kay, versus Ruby Riott and the returning Bianca Belair. Riott and Royce start us off. Some roll-ups from Riott early, then she comes out wrestling Royce for a bit before trying to tag Belair, but that's unfortunately cut off, and Kay tags in blindly to ambush Riott. They then beat down Riott for a bit. She nearly makes a tag, but Royce cuts her off with a spin kick. Billie Kay comes in, stomping the tag, but Riott eventually kicks her off and then tags in Belair. Belair runs wild on Kay and mocks Royce on the apron. Handspring moonsault from Belair, but Royce is in there to break up the pin. Riott then takes out Royce with an enziguri. Belair hits the kiss of death onto Roy, and then we're done. So we're getting back to our basic short women's matches where not really much gives a damn, when I personally give a damn about the women's wrestling. The official result was Ruby Riott and Bianca Belair defeated the Iconics by pinfall. But see, it was so short and stuff, I'm rating it a 2 stars. And again, paint by numbers, and too short to be a much beyond a reminder that Belair exists and is pretty good. Then we cut to our next segment in the back with R-Truth has some comedy bits where he thinks he's wrestling Ric Flair instead of Randy Orton, since Flair issued the challenge, not Randy Orton. Truth seems moderately distressed by the revelation by this misunderstanding. Ricochet and Cedric Alexander have tried to kind of get him, understand that he's not wrestling Ric Flair. He's wrestling the Apex Predator, Randy Orton. He then runs into Akira Tozawa, and he asks him for help to become a black belt in 10 minutes. Tozawa flat out says, no! And he tries to pin R-Truth with these kung fu standoff and ends up Truth demanding a 24/7 match in the ring, while Ricochet and Cedric Alexander are stead in a standstill pose with ninjas. We go to our third match. It is for the 24/7 championships. We have the champion R-Truth versus Akira Tozawa. Tozawa and the ninjas are in the ring, and here comes Truth rapping to a crowd behind plexiglass, ergo the WWE Performance Center trainees. Truth notes that he's here alone while Tozawa has 1 ninja, 2 ninjas, 3 ninjas with him. I felt like I was watching Sesame Street for just a brief period. The proceedings are then interrupted by the returning Queen of Spades, Shayna Baszler, who I personally thought was going to come out, destroy everybody, sends the ninjas and Tozawa on her way. And for a minute, I thought that she was going to go right after R-Truth, and Truth was still here and decides to bail before he loses his title to Baszler. The official result was the bell never rang, so it was an official match. There was no actual match that took place. As far as Baszler's return, I'll give that a thumbs up. But there was nothing really to grade right there, since there was no official bell or with the ring. Baszler then has a mic. She runs down the other women's champions as being disgruntled, hoping that she's going to tear on the Raw and SmackDown women's division. Baszler leaves in the wake with just a memory. She promises to bring a hard dose of reality to everyone in her way. We recap of what Rey Mysterio getting to pick their match, making it a eye for an eye match, which I will point out that All Elite Wrestling did it first. We're going to need to get the Simpsons meme ready. We're going to need to target that very much. Be like, Simpsons did it first, you know. But, of course, we get an eye for an eye match. But in the back, I'm Not Your Buddy Murphy meets up with, you know, the great Monday Night Messiah, Seth Rollins. Rollins says nothing great happens without a sacrifice, and that Rey Mysterio acts for this. Then he tells Murphy to focus on his upcoming match with Aleister Black while he delivers a message to his people. We go to commercial, and Seth Rollins comes with his man bun, making their way to the ring for a promo time. He reminisces on the reality of an eye for an eye, much like how Pokemon communicates with endless repetition. He notes an eye for an eye is a metaphor, but Mysterio meant it literally, as he can't quite get his hands around how he got to the point where televised eye removal is the key to winning. He says that a sanction and stipulations are unprecedented in the history of WWE, but he never meant to harm Mysterio. Apparently, he acts to be this character by the WWE Universe, and here I thought it was creative. He promised that the horror show Extreme Rules will be a horror show, as he's forced to rip, tear, and gouge until Rey Mysterio is left blind. Mysterio will never watch his son get married, see his wife's face sunrise or sunset, and Extreme Rules will be the end of Rey Mysterio, but also a new beginning. His future rambling is cut off by, of course, Kevin Owens, and Owens isn't sorry for interrupting, but he does note he's expected a more traditional feud endure like the Last Man Standing or Steel Cage matches. Owen feels slightly disturbed by the concept of the match, but he's even more disturbed by Rollins' ability to drive a great person and performer like Rey Mysterio to this agonizing and brutal point. Owens then says he's willing to end his career just to shut up Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. Then he tells not to be worried because he's good friends with Jean-Pierre Farid. I hope I got that right. And he's got an eye patch for him, which Kevin Owens, he's always good with these puns. Rollins calls out Murphy to help him out attack, and then Aleister Black comes out and brawls with him for another commercial break because they got to pay for these commercials. Come back from commercial, a pretty good promo from Rollins. My sarcasm aside, as he tried to impress the staggering fans in the audience. I found as though his promos are alright, but I'm just not a big fan of this Monday Night Messiah stuff. He's joined in progress with Black kicking the crap out of Murphy before Murphy botches a dragon screw leg sweep. Murphy's now in control while still attacking the right leg of Black. He hangs it up in the middle rope with a proper dragon screw leg. And of course Murphy hops into the front kick. Both men are down. Back up with more strikes from Black. Murphy tries to get a leg again, but eats a knee strike. More blows from Black, but Murphy's cut that off within a chop block. Another knee strike from Black, this time for a near fall. Murphy back to his legs, wins up, kicked up to the apron, then jockey for position on a suplex spot. Black gets free, a black mass, but Rollins yanks him out for the DQ. As the official result, Aleister Black did defeat Murphy, but it was still by disqualification. And I have to rule this one, if I have to, a 1.5 stars, because it's not bad, but it felt like an angle, not a match. Also, matchup between these two are starting to get really blurred together, because at first it was, we want this match, now can we please not get this match? Because what WWE does, then as soon as they get one good match, they want to squeeze about 25 more out of it when we're drained after number 4. And Rey and Dominic come out, and Rollins is concerned, leading us to another commercial blank, left on a cliffhanger. I'm just getting tired of these cliffhangers and so many commercials on their part, you know. And we come back in there and we got Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins, a WrestleMania rematch. Owens then takes it to Rollins early. The ring is surrounded by the enemies of Rollins who can't run. Owens starts attacking the right leg of Rollins, then lays him out with strikes. Rollins then begs for mercy. Owens declines to grant it and resumes assaulting him. Black distracts Rollins when he tries to take over, leading to Owens taking him out in the corner, hitting a cannonball senton for a near fall. Owens is in full control here on out, but then Rollins to the outside for a repetitive, but still surrounded as he returns to the ring, because It's basically a non-lumberjack match. And at this time, Rollins with a knee to Owens and tosses him outside. Everyone forms a wall between Owens and Rollins when he tries to follow up, buying Owens time to recover and blast him with a right. Rollins then tries to escape, but Owens lays him into more and sends him back into the ring. Rollins still trying to escape, but the hockey boards around the barricades prevent him from doing so. More abuse from Owens to Rollins, but they met on the apron and traded blows. Rollins then back to the ring, but eats a headbutt. Rollins then takes out the knee of Owens and tried to get back into the ring. Owens outside, and a suicide dive from Rollins prompts us to yet another commercial break. They come back from commercial break and Rollins is in control. They wind up outside the ring and brawl for a bit. Back in the ring and Rollins resumes offense and talking smack to Owens. They then trade slaps and then Owens fires up with chops and forearms before Rollins cuts him off. Then a kick from Rollins. He avoids a DDT but winds up getting hit with a super kick, and then they're both down. A DDT from Owens but with just a 2 count. Rollins then counters a cannonball senton but drops Owens onto the buckles and hits a blockbuster for a close 2 count of his own. Owens then catches a super kick, then lands one of his own. Tries to pop up powerbomb, but Rollins with a kneeling super kick for a near fall. Rollins then sets up for a blackout. Owens avoids it, tries to stun her, but is countered as well. Back and forth. Rollins up top, cut off by Owens, who joins him on top of the corner. Eye gouge from Rollins to Owens. Black distracts him, as does Rey Mysterio's clan. They're all up on the apron. Owens then hits a stunner and pins Seth Rollins. This was so back and forth. I enjoyed it, and the official result was Kevin Owens did defeat Seth Rollins via pinfall. I'm going to give this one 3 stars. These two work incredibly well together. The numbers game being against Rollins for one, that's playing into the finish was nice. Owens could also use that for the win, while Rollins will be beating Mysterio to get his heat back on Sunday. And then Mysterio is on the mic now, says that Rollins crossed every line there is to cross. And now that it's his turn to do so. He promises to make his own sacrifice at the horror show Extreme Rules. Rollins then walking into this match with 2 eyes, but Rey Mysterio guarantees he will only leave with 1. And we cut to another commercial break. Flair is in the back and he's talking with the Big Show. Flair mentions he spent 20 of his 48-year career around the Big Show, and then Show then puts over as much athletic giant as he's ever seen. He puts him over again and says that he can't win the upcoming fight as you can't do Hollywood and wrestle, and says Show is making money on his Netflix show and doesn't need this anymore. And he doesn't need this, and Orton is in the best shape of his life and might have given him a serious injury. Flair then encourages him to go live and go live the good life. Show then says he's a master of manipulation, and then says that Orton is the most dangerous guy right now, and Orton might be the best in WWE history, but he knows what Orton has done to Edge and Christian. And then he asks if Flair is willing to sacrifice his friendship in the business just so Orton can be the legend killer. You know, a solid promo work from these two. And then we take another commercial break. We're back from the break, and here's Orton's video package. The segues to Orton in the back. He notes that he was one of the lucky people to have a handful of friends in the business. Edge, Christian, Big Show, and Flair. All but Flair he uses in the past tense on. He mentions Edge not being able to trust him, as he's happy Edge is home being a family man nursing his injury. Then mentions Christian showing up and talking about how selfishly accepting an unsanctioned match with him. That leads to the Big Show, noting that they've known each other for almost 20 years. That Show was one of the first to take him under his wing. He can't understand Show wanting to avenge some fractured skulls at the cost of a friendship with Orton. Lastly brings up Flair, who he calls closer than family, but thinks it would be a shame if Flair did anything to jeopardize that. He respects R-Truth as a guy who made the WWE Universe happy for years, and thinks it's a shame he'll just be another chapter in the history of the Legend Killer. Flair then shows up to escort Orton for his match. Orton defers just long enough for a slightly sinister look at the camera before getting another commercial break. This Raw has been full of commercial breaks. Really solid segment from Orton there, but a couple of a few issues alongside the fact that there's so many commercials. Now we're going to the sixth match of the night. We got R-Truth versus Randy Orton with Ric Flair. True raps to the ring again. Flair is out first with a mic. He just wanted to be the first to congratulate him on his 2-decade career. He also wants him to know Orton loves him, and that's why he won't punt his head off. Just give him an RKO. That prompts the music of Orton and the legend killer himself. Truth then asks Orton to wait a minute so he can talk to Flair. Orton tries to attack them. Truth cuts him off, tries to go for a scissor kick, but is reversed into an RKO into the end. Official result was R-Truth got demolished, defeated by the Viper Randy Orton. And the ratings, acorn, squash, nothing, zippo, nada. Orton debates the value of punting Truth with Flair as well as the voices in his head. He sets his sights for Flair, kind of a stance between them, and the Big Show comes out. Orton with a mic gets Show to stop before getting in the ring, says he knows Show is angry, but kicking Edge and Christian hurt him more than them, which from a psychological standpoint I find that to be very accurate, because Orton's got these voices in his head, and if it hurts him more to punt him than to not punt him, then that just shows how good Orton is as a heel going on with his heelish feign. He notes that he wasn't going to kick Truth, but the kick has Show's name on it, and it offers an unsanctioned match for Raw after the pay-per-view. Odd choice there, but Show then accepts, charges the ring, but Orton bails. So that would mean next week, win, lose, or draw, what happens at Money in the Bank? Not Money in the Bank. The horror show Extreme Rules. We're getting Randy Orton versus Big Show in an unsanctioned match, which I can't wait to see, to be honest. In the back, we got Bobby Lashley and MVP run into Lashley's opponent for tonight. No one is impressed with anyone. MVP promises to beat Cruz again this Sunday at the horror show Extreme Rules, and promises to celebrate at an undisclosed location. Lashley then promises to leave Ricochet nursing injuries and worse. Our interviewer runs over to interview McIntyre and says he's letting Ziggler choose the stipulation was being very nice, but now the psychopath is out. Ziggler flies into him, and we get a brawl to head into commercial. Another commercial again. The last 45 minutes or so have been pretty good. The beginning was slow, but I'm not sure how the last hour will go for the third of Raw. We're on our 7th match of this 3-hour show, which is, I think, the main event. It was Bobby Lashley with MVP versus Ricochet with Cedric Alexander. Ricochet with an Injaguri. Lashley just no-sells it. Lashley then chases Ricochet around, then winds up slapping him onto the ring apron on the outside. Lashley then throws Ricochet around the ringside area, back into the ring. Ricochet gets ambushed in the corner, and Ricochet tries to roll up, but Lashley stalls him out. Ricochet quickens the pace, heads into the ropes, and runs into a modified Dominator for a 2 count. Lashley's back for ambushing Ricochet in the corner, hits a suplex for another near fall. Ricochet then avoids a palm strike, hits a kick, then standing shooting star press for the near fall. A top rope for Ricochet. Lashley avoids the 630, but then runs into a super kick. Lashley then catches him with a full Nelson, and that's the match. The official result was that Bobby Lashley defeated Ricochet from a full Nelson. Out of all the moves, a full Nelson, which Chris Masters would be in there, he would say, this is my master lock. I have to give this 1 star because there wasn't much here. I don't know what you want to call it, a fully squash match for Ricochet, but it's kind of felt like Lashley needed a full squash, because diminishing Ricochet with minimal offense in a losing effort is almost hurt him almost as badly as it hurt Ricochet. Cedric Alexander kicks MVP down, but Lashley uses that to get him into a full Nelson as well. Lashley and MVP stand tall, and it leads to another commercial break. Commentary runs down the upcoming pay-per-view card from the break, and then Big Show interviews space with Charlie Caruso. As he wants to make things clear, he definitely accepts the challenge for a non-sanctioned match next week on Raw. The women's tag team champions then come out for their match, and we cut to commercials as they reach the ring. They have to pay for something, I guess, because there's too many commercials going on with this. Banks and Baylor are in the ring, and they give us a video tribute of themselves. We got an 8th match on this 3-hour show. We got the Kabuki Warriors defending against Sasha and Bayley. Hopefully Asuka and Kairi can get them titles back. Pearl Harbor job from Banks and Bayley to get immediate control. Warriors fight back and forth with stereo drop kicks. Banks and Bayley reset outside and get another commercial break. Not a fan of that. Can we get at least one match without a commercial break? Okay, apparently the match is just officially started, and Asuka and Banks start out. Banks running away constantly. Bayley tagged in. She and Asuka tie up and hit the corner of the ropes for a break. Asuka with kicks to the body. Bayley catches one slam and slams her down to the mat. They double team Asuka for a bit. Asuka then lands a leg kick. Bayley lands in forearms. Code breaker from Asuka. Chris Jericho is rolling right now. Sane takes it to both Banks and Bayley for an arm drag, and then a double spear from Kairi Sane, which I thought little girl can do that pretty nice. She can deliver some kind of offense. Now Zane walks the plank and hits a sliding D to Bayley for a near fall. Banks tags in blind, and then Asuka does the same. We get Asuka and Banks as illegal parties. Double hip attack on Banks and Bayley are on the apron. Back to the ring, kicks from Asuka to Banks. Asuka working on the arms of Banks, tags in Zayn, but Bayley attacks Asuka on the outside, and Banks hits a kick to Zayn, so the champs are back in control. Banks then tags in Bayley, and they slingshot Zayn into the glass on the outside, sending us into another commercial break. We are back from commercial break, and Banks still working over Zayn as we come back to the action. Bayley then tags in, and they resume beating the crap out of Zayn. And then, of course, Sasha Banks tags back in, flying knees to Kairi Sane. Sasha Banks mocks Asuka and then rolls up Kairi Sane for another near fall. Suplex to Kairi Sane, another near fall. Bayley backs in and hits a hip attack of her own. Kairi Sane then hits a chin breaker, which is a code breaker on Chris Jericho's part. They can't get a tag through, and then Sasha Banks is back in to keep her isolated. Kairi Sane then escapes a double team attack and hits a spinning back fist right to Sasha Banks. Asuka then gets a hot tag and meets Bayley in the ring. A hip attack to Sasha Banks. Asuka then runs wild on Bayley for a bit. Banks is illegally, and Asuka takes them both out with a tandem bulldog and lariat. Bayley to the outside. Asuka is sliding knee from the apron back to the ring. Bayley escapes a pin of a 2 count. Bayley with a forearm on the top rope, then hangs up Asuka on the top rope and tags in Banks, who hits a Meteora. Bayley then tags back in. They hit a double team slam onto Asuka and still just another near fall. They set up Asuka up top to try a Hurricanrana on the top rope. Sasha Banks with a splash, but then there's a trade of near falls. Asuka gets the Asuka lock while everyone is on the outside. Kairi Sane spears Bayley to keep things clean, and Bank has the roll up and saves herself by getting the ropes. An elbow from Sasha Banks. They then trade near finishers, and then Kairi Sane tags in blind. Axe kicks from Kairi Sane, a super kick from Asuka, and Zayn hits a flying elbow, but then Bayley breaks up the pinfall. Bayley then takes out Asuka. Kairi Sane takes out Bayley, then back into the ring. Kairi Sane hits the Alabama Slam onto Sasha Banks, but Sasha Banks counters with a sliding D and into the Banks statement for the submission. The official ruling was Sasha Banks and Bayley defeating the Kabuki Warriors via submission to retain the titles. Now, I'm going to rule this 4 stars because these teams know how to work together, though I wonder if this couldn't have been trimmed down a bit. I also feel the ending was telegraphed by the end, but that's not a huge complaint. Sasha Banks and Bayley celebrate on the ramp. That's what ends the show. Out of the entire show, I have to label it, well, alright, out of the whole show, I will do 3.5 out of 5 for the entire show because I will be honest, I was dozing off midway through it. And the main concern, I hate to do this, but why do we have many commercials? Why must we have this? I understand you have sponsors that are paying for this show, but you can at least trim it down to a lump sum of commercials instead of small 2 minutes spread out throughout the 3-hour period. That's just my concern, okay? If y'all have any comments about this Monday's Raw, and if you have any more comments, please leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to like my Facebook page at LTF Wrestling on Facebook. Don't forget, Light the Fuse, Bring the Boom. You can follow me on Instagram at ThisIsMTG. Follow me on